Okay, so everyone died. Ohio Sakai, good morning world! Do 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 do. Okay, so Dr. Stone video today. I figured I would just get this out because I have wanted to talk about this for a while. Last few chapters have been really hype. Still gonna do the Attack on Titan video. Attack on Titan ended. Just give me a little bit while longer to process that ending, and I'll make a video about that. But today we're talking about Dr. Stone. Okay, so oh man, where do we even start with this? You know, these last few chapters have done that thing where, like, I'm really swept up in the events that are transpiring, but I'm also just kind of, like, looking back at the bigger picture of, like, okay, why are we here again? You know, like, why is all of this happening exactly the way this is happening? I'll explain later as I go in. Okay, so the last chapter of Dr. Stone, chapter 191, well, Senku's plan works. At the same time, it doesn't. The plan to just petrify the entire group, you know, the science team, you know, the Kingdom of Science, as well as Stanley's group, that does happen. However, it also involves petrifying, or I guess in a lot of people's case, repetrifying the entirety of the planet. And I have to say, the way it was handled was really cool. I actually did not see the ending of the last chapter going down. I just thought that, you know, Magma and everybody were just going to rush the soldiers, and a lot of them were going to get shot, and a lot of them did. I mean, it was a brutal chapter, right? I mean, they have to censor a lot of the stuff for Shonen Jump, but, like, the scene where they're trying to get the keys from the safe, and, you know, one of the soldiers drops the keys, and Homura uses her gymnastics to, like, grab the key, and she's like, I got it! Just freaking arm just gets riddled with bullets, right? And just gets, like, turned into Swiss cheese. And then Magma gets the key, jumps on the safe, you know, puts the key in the lock and opens up the safe. Like, I got it! And just gets, like, Gatling gun. Just gets it gunned down right then and there. Very brutal chapter. Even though we are aware that the petrification can heal everybody, we are aware of that. It still doesn't make it any less, like, you know, Boichi goes 100% here. He really does. Same thing when Tsukasa and everybody got gunned down a few chapters ago. It's like, okay, yeah, they're the entire main cast of the story. They're probably not going to be dead for good, but I want you to imagine just being in that perspective, okay? Like, Tsukasa, this is like the third time he's died, but whatever, like, you know that, like, okay, there's this magical Medusa device that can turn you into stone, and then with a splash of, you know, nitol or nitric acid, you'll come back to life, and all of your wounds, all of your injuries, and your even, like, diseases and stuff, like Mirai's, like, brain death, you know, that can all be healed with Dr. Stone. Oh, hey, that's the reason why it's called that. Okay, I thought it was soap this whole time, right? So, but even if you're aware of that fact, even if you've seen it happen before, hell, Tsukasa had it done to him. Alright, he was stabbed by Hyoga, and then he was, like, frozen, and then he got brought back to life. Oh, cool, that actually works. That's nice. But still, like, you're at a moment where you get, like, shot, and it's like you're on the ground, and there's blood everywhere, and you're like, okay, well, I hope it can bring back recently dead bodies, because at this point, like, well before well before the petrification device took hold over the entire planet, Tsukasa and Kohaku and Hyoga and everybody, they're dead. They died. They died before that. This wasn't like a moment where it was like right before the breath left themselves, that's when they got petrified. No, it's like they got petrified, like, I don't know, I want to say maybe 10, 20 minutes, you know, after they died. Might be more than that. Might be a little bit less than that. I'm not really sure on the timelines here, but it's pretty brutal, okay? So, the way it ends, though, is also brutal when Joel is hiding in a pile of, like, his friends' corpses, and everybody, like, Brody is there, the engineer for, you know, Xeno's group, and he's just, like, he's crying, because he obviously didn't want to kill everybody, but it's just like, well, I guess we had to do that, and whatever, it's sad, and then Joel, like, springs out to, like, grab the Medusa in the safe, and there's this giant, like, heavy industrial safe, like, the thing is, like, you have to open it, like hydraulics, or if you're Magma, I guess, big giant safe, and freaking Brody just shuts it right on Joel's arm. So it probably just, like, if it broke his arm, definitely, but it might have just snapped the thing off, you know, like, because it's like a giant heavy door that's, like, this thick, just gets crushed right there on your arm, and Joel activated his watch right before he did it, and the thing that actually triggers the petrification command is not Joel himself, it's not anybody in that group, it's not Senku, it's the Y-Man. And it's like, I didn't see that coming, but then like in the last 2 pages when like, oh, Joel had the radio on his watch, so it's probably going to be Senku that's going to send the command, or I guess, oh, so that was cool. I like that. So, you know, you had the moment where he just clicks the watch on, grabs the Medusa, his arm just gets crushed, and then he's just like, you know, because everybody knows about the radio waves, right? Even Xeno knew about the radio waves. He's just like, oh yeah, the second that we got radio technology, we noticed that there were these giant waves blasting down from the moon. And then after the whole Treasure Island arc, after Senku issued the command through the radio waves from the earring into the Medusa to petrify Ibarra, that's when the Y-Man got a copy of Senku's voice and then used that to synthesize a false voice, like a Vocaloid voice, like a synthetic voice. And then he's just been blasting that down on the Earth, like, you know, 12,800,000 miles. I can't remember the meter range for the Earth, you know, but it's like 25,000 miles is the diameter of the Earth in the American standard or whatever. But yeah, so he's just issuing that command like 12 million meters or whatever, you know, 1 second. And that was the thing that actually ended up, you know, working. So that was a cool chapter. Now, here's a few things you got to keep in mind, though. Here's a few things. So if we're assuming the plan goes off without a hitch, because I still think it can, I think that what's going to save everybody's butts this time around is going to be Chrome. All right, because Chrome did foreshadow earlier, hey, what if we just make some sort of device that attaches to you and does the same basic thing that Senku did at Treasure Island, where Treasure Island, what Senku had to do is Ibarra petrifies everybody. Senku had to, like, time it perfectly to throw the revival fluid up in the air, arc it, and then get petrified, and then have it hit him to depetrify him. He had to time that perfectly. So Chrome is like, all right, well, if that's what we know, if you could stop the petrification with a splash of nitric acid, why don't we just make some sort of device that's attached to you or whatever, and then it just constantly drips just a little bit of nitric acid every few minutes or whatever. It doesn't even have to be like very often. It could be like once every 10 minutes, one drop, a single drop of nitric acid hits, because even one drop will cause that chain reaction, which will, you know, release the petrification, okay? And they've discovered that through Treasure Island and everything. Senku also noted in that arc, like, another way you could avoid it is just diving in nitric acid. If the petrification wave's coming and you have a pool of nitric acid, you could dive in and you would be fine, but you just took a bath in nitric acid, so you'd probably still die. You'd be coming, I'm okay from the petrification. Oh god, I'm melting. Right, so not a good idea, but this like one little drip at a time would be okay. So, dollars to donuts, Chrome built that thing. Chrome, even if he didn't build it at that point, even that was just the idea, when everybody was setting up the fort, and everyone was like, okay, we're setting up this fort, Stanley's army's gonna be here in a few days, we're gonna have the final battle, the plan is for Suika and Francois to go away, and then we're just gonna trigger the Medusa at this point, petrify everybody in the fort and in the surrounding areas, and then Suika and Francois just come back, splash the revival fluid on us, we're good, and everything's fine, right? You bet Chrome, knowing him, Chrome probably would have thought like, okay, what if that plan goes horribly wrong? Because, not for nothing, but it's like, a lot of our plans don't always pull off without a hitch, right? So it's like, Chrome would be like, you know, what would happen if Suika and Francois also get captured, and we have to resort to petrifying everybody? Like, basically, I can imagine Chrome being like, what happens if nobody is alive after this? What happens if everybody is either dead or petrified, or both, in Tsukasa's case, and there's nothing we can do? We have to have a backup to the backup to the backup, right? So Chrome, you know, it was probably, they had a few days at Fort Medusa to build it. Like, they literally had enough time to build an entire fort, all right? To cut down trees and make a wall and set up a fort and everything and make a tower for the Medusa. They had time to do that. You know, Chrome, in the meantime, was just like, I just need to come up with like a little device that just drips nitric acid on me. It doesn't even have to be often. It could be once a day for all it matters. Like, it really doesn't matter. Just something to constantly drip it. So that's what he did, probably. So I think that's going to be the thing that's going to save everybody. That's going to wake Chrome back up. He's going to be the only person alive, and then he's going to just make more nitric acid, make more nitol or whatever, or grab the ones they had, and then just splash it on Senku and everybody. That's going to save the science group in South America. But here's the problem. Not only because the initial plan was just to like create a range of like maybe a few thousand meters, right? You know, around the Fort Medusa, like maybe 1 or 2 thousand meters to petrify everybody there. That was the initial plan. That's changed a bit because of Y-Man, so now it's the entire planet. All right, so that means not only is it Stanley's group and the science group, Senku's group, it's also everybody at Corn City, which is, you know, because they were killed, that's the only way they can come back, so that's a good thing, I guess, in that particular instance. But it's also everybody on, well, on Treasure Island, so, Soyuz and his whole group, that would actually be really haunting, if, like, in the next chapter, we cut to Soyuz on Treasure Island, setting up a new kingdom or whatever, and he's happy, and he's like, this is my father's kingdom, I finally, oh no, not again, Senku, please, no, and then it's like, okay, and then that could happen, and then it hits Ishigami Village, and so Ruri and everybody there also gets petrified. Now, here's the problem. Chrome might have been able to save everybody there in South America, but now, what are they going to do? Are they going to continue on to Europe with no backup because they can't communicate back with Japan or with Corn City? Because the whole point of this was to set up cities, but in Corn City, everybody's petrified. There's going to be no work being done there. So their options are to basically go back through South America, go all the way back up to North America, and revive everybody at Corn City, and then travel all the way back to Japan, depetrify everybody there, and then maybe they could just continue their journey from Japan instead of like, okay, we did Japan, and then North America, and then South America, and then we had to double back to North America and Japan, and at that point, though, after everyone's revived for, like, the 4th time or whatever, just then continue your journey, but continue it on the eastern side of the planet. So, from Japan, go down to, I think Australia was the rubber city, or aluminum, one of the two. No, I think it was the Rubber City was Australia. And then go up to like Math City, which was in Europe and everything like that. Like that was the plan, right? That was the original plan. So just do that, I guess, is a possibility. I'm trying to think of like if there's any way that the Ishigami Village residents could prevent that. But the whole drip mechanism thing, that was just thought up by Chrome in like the recent chapters. Like in the last few chapters, Chrome came up with that idea. So that means it doesn't exist anywhere else. Even if they left some revival fluid, you know, back at Ishigami Village or whatever, I guess somebody could have done the trick like that Senku did, but I doubt it. Right, so, yeah, this is going to be a problem. This is going to petrify the entire world, which is an issue. Something else, and I actually had to go back and reread this. Now, this is something that you might see as me nitpicking the story or whatever. I guess it was just something that I'm a little bit, like, off-put by, but it does make sense. It's not that it doesn't, it's just I'm a little confused by it. So, in the middle of this massive war we're having right now between Stanley's group and Senku's group, which, by the way, the whole reason, this isn't the reason I'm confused, but Stanley wants to get back Xeno, right? Like, that's the whole plan, you know, to, like, they kidnap Xeno, they're gonna bring him back. Okay, cool. So, for that reason, maybe just, you know, grenade launching a bunch of explosives into the fort, maybe not a great idea there. Maybe not a great idea. We have to get Xeno back. He's somewhere in that fort. Alright, boom, boom, boom! Just blow the crap out of it. Like, that's not a smart move, you know, they have a hostage, but okay, whatever. And by the way, that was brutal in and of itself, just seeing Taiju like, oh, stop them, boom! And he just gets his freaking face blown off with a grenade, and Gen is just like, hey, come on, Taiju! Come on, Taiju! That was pretty brutal. But not even that. So I started to be like, okay, Senku and the group kidnap Xeno, and they bring him on this field trip to South America. Okay. But even before that, obviously Stanley tried to assassinate Senku on Xeno's orders and everything like that, well back in the last arc, okay? So I had a moment where I stepped back and I'm like, why do they hate each other again? Like, why does Dr. Xeno want Senku dead so damn bad? Like, where did this even, like, what was the impetus to kickstart this? So I went back and reread the beginning of the arc, the Corn City arc, okay? Here is what happened, alright? So Xeno is, you know, a brilliant scientist from NASA, and he revived the same day as Senku, and he started to build up his society in North America, same as Senku over in Japan. The difference is that he had a little bit more resources, because they had platinum from day one, and, you know, they basically, you know, they made more weapons and guns and everything, you know, it's America. And so he built all that stuff up in the giant castle and everything. So they focused more on that than what Senku was focused on, which was, like, reviving humanity. I think it was even thrown in there that Dr. Xeno was like, you know, I don't want to revive all of humanity, or, you know, because there'd be too many people at once, you know, like I wouldn't be able to control everybody there. I would only have, like, a small group of people. I think that was even mentioned. Okay, so Xeno is a dick. We already know that, because he already, even, like, during the flashback with Byakuya, you know, they were asking him, like, hey, if you could, like, go back in time, what would you do? And Xeno's first response was like, oh, I would use my powerful science skills to basically rule the world as a dictator. More coffee, please. So Xeno's already, like, imagine that! Imagine that! Like, hey, dude, if you could go back in time, what would you do? Oh, I would go and visit ancient Rome, where I'd visit all the past, like, wonders of the world and antiquity. And then you get some of the, well, what would you do? Oh, I would go back and be a dictator and rule over the whole world with science! You'd be like, okay, dial it down a bit, dude. Jesus, you know, that's pretty intense, right? But that's Xeno, that's what he wants to do. So he was talking to Senku, basically, and it was basically like a difference of ideology, where Senku obviously, you know, wants to revive the whole world and everything, and that's because of science. And then Xeno's like, I just want to kind of rule over everybody. So he gives him an option of, like, immediately stand down and do what I say and do what I order and accept me as your leader, or we'll just kill you. And Senku and everybody, obviously, they don't agree with that. And then Xeno is just freaking immediately, Xeno's just like, all right, well, negotiations have broken down. We're gonna attack you now. Now, I'm not completely confused on why Xeno would act like that, because we have established he's kind of a dick. All right, he's like, I want to be the dictator that rules the world. All right, I want to rule the world with science, and I've been doing a pretty good job so far. So, obviously, I'm not going to... Senku is another science pro. So if there's anybody on this planet that could, like, contend with me or, you know, challenge my reign, it would be Senku. And so he puts a hit out on Senku with, you know, Stanley sniping him, okay? So that makes sense. It's just kind of a little bit absurd, because it's like, okay, these are the first people that you've seen in 3 years that have arrived from Japan that have also been depetrified, and they have this depetrification formula. You'd think that you'd want to sit down and talk with them first, you know, in, like, face to face to figure out what's going on here. Maybe you can solve this mystery. But Xeno's like, nah, I don't care about any of that. I just want him dead so I can rule everything. I'm like, all right, he's a dick. The thing that is a little confusing is why everybody would just go along with this in Xeno's group. That was the thing that I was a little bit kind of bugged out by. Especially Brody. Because Brody, he's the mechanic, he's the big muscular dude, and he's the one that was like, after everyone died in the last chapter, he was like crying. And it was also stated that he's like, he's the most rational out of everybody in Xeno's group. Like, he's the most amenable, you know, if you have a problem, he's the one that'll probably listen to you the most, right? And yet he goes along with this. So let me get this straight, just so I understand what's going on here, okay? Xeno awakens along with everybody else at the national park, you know, 3 years ago, same day as Senku. He wakes up, you know, Brody's there, Stanley's there, Maya's there, Luna's there. They all wake up at the same time. And Xeno immediately announces to all of them that, you know, I'm going to start a new era of science, and I'm going to use my science skills to build up a new empire. And I'm going to be the leader of said empire, and I'm going to rule all of you, and you're going to listen to everything I say. And Brody and Maya and Luna and Stanley's a military officer, so I guess that kind of goes along with, like, a little bit of that, because Stanley was, like, issued to protect Xeno anyway, so maybe you could kind of, like, give some leeway with that. But, like, everybody in that group immediately was like, yeah, okay, Xeno, we'll listen to everything you say, no matter what, without question. Now, granted, Xeno is the science pro, so without him, you would not have this, like, the giant castle, and the agriculture, and the boats, and the planes, and the guns. Like, without him, you wouldn't have any of that. But, like, I guess the thing I'm confused by is, like, so Senku comes over, and Xeno immediately realizes that he's a threat, and Xeno puts an issue of, like, okay, we gotta kill him. We gotta kill Senku. We gotta kill the leader of this science operation. And Stanley and everybody else just kind of goes along with that. I don't know. I'm just a little bugged out by that, I guess. I just feel like somebody in the group would be like, no. What are you, insane? Like, Xeno, like, these are the first human beings we've seen in 3 years that come from the other side of the planet. And they're like, you know, they're like teenagers. Like, we're not gonna kill them. And Xeno's like, I'm your leader. You have to do it. I ordered it. I'm like, no, we're not doing. Like, I feel like there would have been a mutiny. I feel like there would have been some sort of mutiny, maybe led by Brody or some of the other more reasonable members of Xeno's group. Like, that should have caused more of a schism than it did, is what I'm basically saying. Instead, they've literally just, yep, Xeno's our leader. Whatever he orders, we do. Even if we personally don't like it, he knows what's best. I feel like that is just a little bit kind of more unbelievable, but at any rate, because, you know, without that, we wouldn't have conflict, and that was, like, the whole point of the last 2 arcs, I guess, right? I suppose that's an issue. But I just feel like, if you guys would just be working together, this would solve the problem so much easier, right? And Xeno and Senku did work together. When they were on their way down to South America, they figured out the exact point where the petrification ray started. So it's like, they're not against working together. It's just like, yeah, I could call Stanley off so you won't kill everybody, so he won't kill everybody, but I'm not going to. It just seems weird. It seems like Senku and Xeno seem to be bonding in the last arc. Like, yeah, but it's still like, you know, Stanley, don't kill. Like, no, Stanley still, yeah, get rid of them. They still need to die. But, you know, I don't know. It's just a little few things here that I feel like this could have been resolved a lot easier than it was. At any rate, we're here now. And if this goes down the way that I think it's going to go down, Chrome is going to revive. And then he'll revive Senku and Kaseki and everybody. And if they now know the knowledge that they have, you know, like how to make the diamond perfectly and how to etch it and everything, and Joel figured it out, so now they can make it. And they're not going to revive Stanley, obviously. Xeno, I don't know if they'll revive Xeno. They might revive Xeno, but they're not going to revive Stanley right away or anything like that, right? You know, it's like, okay, we need to figure out what's going to happen next afterwards. That is if Chrome managed to save everybody. But I think that is the way we're going to go, because otherwise the Y-Man wins. Y-Man wins. Everybody's petrified. I guess you could wait around for another 3,700 years and maybe they'll revive naturally again. Oh, that would be brutal. That would be brutal. Like, you got maybe not 1,000, maybe not 3,700 years, but like a while. Like, but if they did that, like if they waited like a few centuries, like everything they built up until this point, everything at Ishigami Village, all of the technology and the roads they built and everything at Corn City, everything would just be demolished, and you'd literally be starting from over, like from, you know, day one all over again. I don't think we're gonna go with that, because that would be very frustrating. Like, yeah, everything that you work so hard, yeah, it's gone. Yeah, that would really suck. But anyway, let me know on how you feel about that down below, how you feel about, you know, the last chapter and how they're gonna survive, if they're gonna survive, and what's the whole, like if you think, like, maybe the whole animosity between Xeno's group and Senku's group is maybe there's a few holes in there, like there's a few things that, like, okay, this doesn't make a lot of sense, and then this doesn't make a lot of sense while they're still doing this. I've noticed a little bit of that, but I could be wrong. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking and Barry signing out. You guys have a good day.